Hey everybody, welcome to Now It's Dark. I just saw Lisa Frankenstein, the horror comedy and I dare say romance movie starring Kathryn Newton, who some superhero fans may know from Ant-Man Quantumania. She plays Cassie Lang, so she's got a bright future ahead of herself in Marvel movies, and also Cole Sprouse, who was, I think it was he who was Jughead in the Riverdale CW series, which I actually was a fan of. I watched the entire, the whole, every season. And there's a few other people we'll get to in just a moment. His character's name is The Creature, playing from the lore of Frankenstein. If you are unaware, this movie just came out on February 9th, and it's a PG-13. So a couple of red flags for me, but I still wanted to see this. I had some time to kill. I definitely needed some distractions over this weekend, and I love all the all the actors that are in this. It kind of spoke to me in it could go either way, and it did. It went all kinds of ways for me during the watching of this movie. I'll give you my overall what I felt about it after we read like what the description is. If for some reason you're not familiar with this, it's a coming of rage love story about a teenager and her crush who happens to be a corpse. After a set of horrific circumstances bring him back to life, the two embark on a journey to find love, happiness, and a few missing body parts. That description's a little off, but pretty close. Directed by Zelda Williams. And Zelda Williams, I had to look up because I wasn't really familiar with her name. I wanted to see some of the other things that she has done. And she's like a voice actress. She's done voices in several animated things, particularly with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. She's directed TV series, um, but not a whole lot. I want to go check my notes real quick though, because there was something interesting about the writer, uh, Diablo Cody. And um, Diablo Cody, first of all, it's a great name. Like it's a pen name, a surname, as so to speak. So Diablo Cody wrote this, and she also wrote Jennifer's Body, which is kind of like a culty classic film for a lot of people. People love or hate that movie. I particularly like it. I think they did. I think her writing, in particular, on the movie itself, was fun. Um, so while looking up Diablo Cody on the interwebs, I thought I was being trolled by the IMDb um, thing, her little synopsis of her stuff. So it starts off with Diablo Cody is originally from Chicago, Illinois, and moved to Minnesota to live with her internet boyfriend Johnny, who later became her husband. While there, she decided on a whim to take up stripping as a hobby of sorts. She was working at an ad agency and got a promotion. The job wore her ragged and was something she did not particularly care for. And then it goes on. So like that just that little profile was like very, very uh kind of, it seemed created, but doing further research. Yeah, she wrote stuff. She was a stripper. She's seems to be very fun. I think that I would like her in the real world if I ever had the chance to meet her. So I mentioned Kathryn Newton plays Lisa, the main character, Lisa Frankenstein. Her last name isn't really Frankenstein though. And the creature, Cole Sprouse. And the other main character that I really enjoyed was Carla Gugino. Gugino. I know I'm saying that wrong, but she plays the stepmother, and she's been in a lot of fun stuff. But she was also um, like she's very recognizable. Gosh, of course, I'm not going to be able to find it. She's done a lot of other horror type stuff. She was in a lot of the hauntings of Bly Manor, the Haunting of Hill House, stuff like that. and The Fall of the House Ushers. And she's very recognizable. I can't find the one that I know that I've seen her from, but if you see her, you'll recognize her. And so this is set in 1989, but it really seemed like it was even more, like I would have said this was set in 85, like right in the middle of the 80s, because it really did a good job of giving me like this 80s vibe, uh, just based on wardrobe, the music choices, and just the way the school was set up, colors, a lot of like 80s, mid 80s, definitely was the feel for me. Um, and it is definitely more comedy than anything else. And for me, a lot of the comedy didn't hit all the time. There were some laugh out loud moments, but for the most part, I wasn't really vibing. I don't think that I'm the demographic they were looking for. I'm not the target audience, so to speak. With the PG-13 rating, I wasn't like thinking that I was going to have like a gore fest or anything to that effect, but there was just, it's so much comedy. I was looking for more of a dark comedy, with Jennifer Body being one of the writing attributes for Diablo Cody. So I was kind of hoping that it was going to be more like that, even though the trailers definitely showed me something else. But I was hoping maybe some of the acting performances would carry my interest level enough. I didn't feel like I was watching a train wreck by any means, but again, I definitely wasn't the demographic. I'm not really sure what the demographic is. I guess romantic, uh, at heart, horror fans. Um, but again, horror is very light. It's like a comedy. The comedy is dark, I suppose, but it's not dark enough for me. But there's definitely some funny 80s kind of nostalgia in there as well, mixed in. The look of the creature um, kind of immediately made me think of Billy Butcherson from the Hocus Pocus movies. And that's actually my least favorite character in the Hocus Pocus movies. And I love the Hocus Pocus movies. But that character, I didn't like the body movements. And I get that you're playing a decayed, dead person, so you're a corpse. You're not necessarily able to speak, got an odor. There was definitely a lot of gags played on that. There's a fashion show that you see in the trailer that's almost exactly like ripped right out of the movies, right from it. Like that kind of stuff, that kind of humor doesn't work for me necessarily. I get there's nods to other 80s movies in this, like a a more seasoned viewer of this movie like myself, who's seen a lot of 80s non-horror and other 80s horror, and you'll definitely pick up things that the average young person may not know because they just haven't seen these other movies. So there was some nice touches to some movies and things like that. One thing in particular that really stood out to me was how they portrayed the father of Lisa. He was the quintessential like 80s movie dad. You think of like Ferris Bueller dad, where he's just kind of there. He's doing his dad thing, but he's so out of touch with the rest of everything going on. He's just in his world. He's just like, I don't know. It's just hard to explain. Like he's reading the paper and everybody's having conversation and they ask him something. He's like, yep, uh-huh, okay. And then like that's kind of until the very, very end, um, where we go with it. So once we get our first kill, and there are some kills, and there are people that are killed that have moments at the beginning half of the movie, so like it makes sense why they were targeted. But the basic idea and where the Frankenstein part of this movie comes in is that the corpse, the creature, uh, is needing some parts that are missing, and that's how Lisa and the creature kind of go about getting them. And the transformation process, which is very, very campy and cheesy. Because if you think of the lore of Frankenstein, the doctor used lightning to create life and to reanimate the corpse. And this corpse, I'm not even explaining how he comes back to life, because it's very it's an interesting take on the resurrection. You kind of think of whatever Friday the 13th movie that was, where Jason's dead and buried, and then there's electricity happens and brings Jason back to life. It's a similar sequence of events that happens, and then when the two characters are introduced, it's not love at first sight, even though Lisa is in her mind in love with this with the idea of this person who she doesn't know, but she visits the grave of on a regular basis. So the settings are very cartoony in some scenes. The cemetery, um, I kind of liken it to kind of like a Beetlejuice or Edward Scissorhands kind of feel, like very almost parody of the 80s kind of a thing. And it's just kind of like this cemetery with tombstones crooked. It's very cinematically cartoony. And while the transformation of Lisa's character is so fun for me, I enjoyed seeing her go from the beginning of the movie as this quiet, kind of introvert to this extrovert, kind of goth kind of looking character, and her personality uh, arc is good. I like that. And then you can also sort of say the same thing for the creature, because as the creature gets more body parts to replace or fix broken parts, his character develops in looking less like a zombie creature into more like whoever he looked like before. And we get to that, we watch them go through that journey and all the silliness and forced gags and comedy that, again, like didn't all hit for me, but I think it will for other people. This is a tough one for me to gauge whether or not it's going to do well at the theater. I get why they released it right before Valentine's Day, and I suppose couples. This was going to be like a couples movie to go see, but once Valentine's Day is over, I don't know, guys. Do you care to take your girl to the theater to see a movie like this? Like, I think a lot of guys will be tortured to sit through this with their girl. Or do you just wait for the Deadpool and Wolverine to go see it with your guy friends? Um, so, anyways, let me know in the comments down below. I kind of went on a little bit. For me, it didn't hit. I don't think it's necessarily a horrible movie. I liked some of the 80s nostalgia. I did like the character arc for Lisa. And there are a few laugh out loud moments, but it is PG-13, and romantic comedy for me isn't always a good mix with horror. Sometimes horror comedies work, but not always. But when you add romance in the middle, it kind of goes sideways a little bit for me. Let me know in the comments down below if you saw this or you're aware of it, or what your thoughts are on this whole concept. And hit the notification bells for more great reviews just like this one, because it was fantastic. It was just perfect.